Author is funded by the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, supporting writers from pen to publication since 1955. To learn more about the PNWA and their yearly conference, please go to pnwa.org. Hi, this is Bill Kenower of Author Magazine, and we are here at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park with Anat Baniel, author of Kids Beyond Limits. Anat, welcome to Author.
I'm very happy to be here.
So Anat, Kids Beyond Limits describes the Anat Baniel Method. For the viewers who aren't familiar with it, can you summarize exactly what it is you do with these kids with anything from cerebral palsy and brain damage to Asperger's syndrome?
Okay, the Anat Baniel Method takes advantage of what is called the plasticity of the brain. That means the ability of the brain to change itself and to create patterns, connections in unusual ways, different than the normal, so to speak, normal or typically developing child would. And the brain has enormous power to create alternative constructs or connections or relationships within itself that give the end result that we like being able to move an arm that was spastic before, or being able to understand emotional, interpersonal dynamics like a child with autism.
It's profound to me because there is a temptation within the sort of what I think of as the scientific view of the human experience to look upon us as purely mechanical, which there is a mechanical quality to us, but the concept of the brain's plasticity says no, we're organic and we can evolve constantly. We're not set, maybe ever.
Yeah.
Maybe.
You know, I love what you said, because the way I learned to understand it is that we're a combination. So to a certain degree, our bones, our muscles, I mean, of course, they're cells, they're live cells, so they're not just mechanical systems, but we work, our body operates like a mechanical system. So we tend to think of ourselves and our experience pretty much as a mechanical experience. And the brain is an information system, actually. So what happens, information that doesn't smell, it doesn't have weight, you can't catch it with your hands, so it's hard for people to make sense. And that's, I think, where the Anat Baniel Method actually has a significant breakthrough, because when I look at the arm that is not moving the way it's supposed to move, or a child that's not able to look in the eyes or speak or understand language, I don't look at it from the mechanical point of view, even though there is a mechanical manifestation.
Right.
I go straight to the information control system, the brain.
One of the things every writer has to contend with is trust, because they begin a book, and it doesn't matter how many they've published, they've been on the bestseller list, or awards they've won, they don't know what's going to come from that book.
Yes.
And you've been at this for 30 years.
Yes.
And you've obviously worked with maybe thousands of children at this time,
Yes.
and I'm sure you've had a lot of success, and yet I would imagine every time the new child comes through your door with whatever they can't walk or they can't, to some degree, you've got to begin again, don't you?
To 100% degree.
Yeah.
What I have is, and that is one of the things that my students, when I train people to do this work, they kind of don't believe me. Because when you see the lesson after it's done, it looks like it's seamless.
Right.
Right? But I tell them, the first thing you do is you wonder. I have no way of knowing, because every person is unique. And I get my information from the child. Yeah. So the ways they fail. So I love to look how people fail, because that's where the opportunity lies.
Right.
Do they fail because there's not enough differentiation and they move too much, as you're thinking too bigger chunks? Or do they fail because they have some weird idea about how these things should work? I mean, there can be many different, infinite number of ways to failure, and many ways of success. That's the good news. So it's always new. Now, I have enormous amount of knowledge and experience in what I do now from all these years, so I pull from it. But the actual experience is completely new, and I think that's what keeps me so enthusiastic and interested. And every time there's outcome, which is almost always there is, I'm surprised. I'm still surprised. It's sort of magic. Okay, so I did a little of this, I did a little of that, and the kid all of a sudden stands or talks. But I think it's very important to understand, and that's where in my enthusiasm essential. part of what I've learned is to discern the finest of changes. And I think that's what gives potency to my work. It's because I feel a minor change in the person, if I were to work with you or a child, and then I follow that change.
Yes.
So the other thing I teach my students is how much evidence do you need before you know it's so? The less evidence you need to know that it happened, that something happened, the more potent and useful you are to yourself and to the other person. So when a child just changes a little bit, I go, okay, that brain is working. I'm going to move with it. And I catch it. And then I start dancing with a child. And for many children, it's the first time that they feel they can start making sense of their world, because the world is validating and responding to them.
Yes.
Because, I don't know, as a adult, I know for myself, when people invalidate me, after a while, I get very agitated.
You were the first person I've heard in my search for people discussing kids on the spectrum and so on, to talk about the concept of abandoning the concept of fixing them.
Not only we are not fixing them, we can't fix them. You know, if I could go in and fix you or me, trust me, I'd do it in a nanosecond. You see, you can fix something that was already whole.
Right,
and it's broken.
Right.
So you have a car and the tire, you know, has a nail. You go, you fix the tire, you close the hole, you put air in, and it's fixed.
Right.
But you had to have the tire first. You have a kid that doesn't talk or doesn't understand language.
And the parent says he's broken.
Yeah, but what are you going to fix? Because there's nothing there. It wasn't there to begin with.
Right.
Human beings grow. Human beings evolve. It literally grows. So you have to figure a way for it to grow successfully. You can't fix it. And then when you go to fix it, then you do almost everything in opposition to my essentials.
Yeah, and I think that one of the challenges as a parent, if your child is got some kind of challenge that you didn't expect, if they can't talk or walk, to not see them as broken if you don't have a marriage that's working, or you don't have a career that's working, or you're overweight, and you think in the back of your mind, I need to be fixed.
Well, this is where the news for me in Kids Beyond Limits, and also my work with adults, is that, and it's back to brain plasticity, and it's back to our changeability. Under the right conditions, providing the brain with the information that it needs, people really can learn and change. Every human being, especially children, are very, very susceptible to learning. So my scalpel is learning and the brain, and getting that brain to, facilitating for the brain to find its path. And when the parent feels insufficient, they need to know that they can grow. And for me, Kids Beyond Limits is actually, you do it for yourself, so you become a more evolved adult and an enlightened parent.
Yeah.
But not enlightened sitting on the top of a mountain somewhere and humming, but enlightened like having the discipline to dissociate, to detach from and not be driven by fear, and look at your child and wonder what is possible for your child, and go for it. Go for it every day, 100%. And then miracles do happen.